Ignition sequence starts.
Good morning. You're getting a view of the activity inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. Here we have the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers monitoring the operation of the station and working with the Expedition 63 crew members as they power through the rest of their tasks for the week. Commander Chris Cassidy and his crewmates, flight engineers Anatoly Ivanishyn and Ivan Wagner, are just a few hours away from a regular weekend of exercise, house cleaning, and some off-duty time. Well deserved after another full week of science and maintenance that keeps their home on orbit flying smoothly.
Houston Station on Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Isidro Reyna. This week, the science continues on board the International Space Station. The Expedition 63 crew tended to a variety of science hardware, servicing the gear and updating software that operates the advanced research devices. A trio of science facilities supporting physics and biology investigations received hands-on attention. Commander Chris Cassidy connected a laptop computer to the electrostatic levitation furnace and updated the software that runs the extreme temperature research device. The veteran NASA astronaut also set up the confocal space microscope, which observes cellular and tissue functions using fluorescence and spatial filtering techniques. Cassidy also replaced filters inside the Life Science glove box, which enables two crew members to conduct biology and technology research at the same time. We're less than 2 weeks away from launching the next Northrop Grumman Cygnus spacecraft to the International Space Station. The spacecraft is named the SS Kalpana Chawla in honor of the first woman of Indian descent to go to space. In November 1996, Kalpana was assigned as a mission specialist and prime robotic arm operator on STS-87. Kalpana flew on STS-87 in 1997 and STS-107 in 2003, logging a total of 30 days, 14 hours, and 54 minutes in space. The STS-107 mission ended tragically on February 1, 2003, when Space Shuttle Columbia and her crew perished during re-entry. The SS Kalpana Chawla, named for the late astronaut, will launch from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia in the evening of Tuesday, September 29th. For almost 20 years, astronauts have lived and worked on board the International Space Station, testing technologies, performing science, and developing the skills needed to explore farther from Earth, as NASA prepares to send the first woman and next man to the surface of the Moon by 2024. Each month during the 2020 through 2021 school year, NASA's Office of STEM Engagement is providing educators with readily available lesson plans, activities, and information on space station science experiments, and other resources to excite the Artemis generation of explorers. All of this information is accessible at nasa.gov/STEM/ISS20. Keep sending in your questions using the hashtag AskNASA. We'll see you next week.
This mission is Chris Cassidy's third visit to the International Space Station and his first assignment as the station's commander. Despite having already spent 182 days in space when he launched back in April of this year, most of those days being on board the space station, Cassidy expected he would still savor every minute of this flight.
The space station is much bigger than people think. You know, when you tell people that I'm going to go live in space, they're picturing this tiny thing where you've got to turn your shoulders, excuse me, to pass each other in the hallway like a cramped submarine. But it's big. And you can spend a whole day and never see a crewmate except for maybe a meal. The other thing people don't realize, it's a machine. Just like your car, or your house, or your air conditioner. It's gonna break, and stuff does. It's just the nature of machinery. Because people sometimes, what, it broke? What do you mean NASA has a thing that's broken in space? Well, yeah, it's a machine, it's gonna break. And that's what we need to do, is keep it running. At the end of the day, there's several things in a mission that requires a person to turn a wrench and fix it. On my first mission, I was a shuttle crew member and we were helping construct the space station. My second mission as a space station crew member, we were just kind of getting up on step on really pushing the science systems of the space station and getting the most out of all of the assets that the space station has to give for science and research. Now I think we are just humming along with the science and research. The greater community and particularly the specialists in Building 30 and Mission Control really know how to run the space station and keep it going well so that we can devote tons of astronaut hours to science. That anniversary is kind of special to me in the sense that Bill Shepard was the commander of Expedition 1, United States Navy SEAL, and I will be the commander of Expedition 63, 20 years later, a United States Navy SEAL. So there's been three of us, Shep, myself, and now Johnny Kim, who have come from the SEAL community to be astronauts, and I think it's really pretty cool that there's the bookends of the 20 years of station will be commanded by Shep and myself. What am I looking forward to most on this mission? This is my third one, and I am going into it with the mindset of I'm going to cherish every single day that I'm there, because it might be the last days that I get to look out the cupola window and see Earth. So I'm really looking forward to appreciating every one of those days. I'll be happy to get back to Earth, to be with my family, but I'm really looking forward to valuing each of those days while I'm there. I'm astronaut Chris Cassidy. Thanks for being part of Expedition 63.
In addition to performing the research, International Space Station crew members like NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy often become the research as scientists study how being in space impacts human health. That includes studying how the crew members establish a routine for sleep, which is a key to their functioning to the best of their ability, and something all of us here on Earth can relate to too. In this demonstration video, astronaut Ricky Arnold talks about some of the challenges with sleeping in space, and he shows us how the astronauts overcome them.
Hi, my name is Ricky Arnold on the International Space Station. We get asked a lot, how do we sleep in space? And it's a great question because we all know how important a good night's sleep is. If you're not getting a good night's sleep, you can count on reduced cognitive function, poorer reaction times, and maybe just being a little grumpy. And up here in space, just like on Earth, those are things we all want to avoid. So, we go around the Earth about every 90 minutes, which means we get 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. So how we sleep is a really good question, because the sun's always getting ready to come up or it's getting ready to set, and we use those cues on Earth to let us know when it's time to begin our day and when it's time to end our day.
Ricky is talking about circadian rhythm. It's the body's natural regulator for sleep and wake cycles based on a 24-hour schedule. Those 16 sunrises and sunsets he mentioned can cause circadian misalignment and sleep deficiencies during long-duration spaceflight. The hazards of lost sleep can range from poor attention at school to on-the-job errors to long-term sleep loss, even chronic disease. Sleep is super important. Hey Ricky, what are you doing on the space station to get some sleep?
Well, here in space, we kind of have to do it artificially. So we have these nice crew quarters. It's about the size of a refrigerator. It's very quiet. The space station can be a little noisy, but it's very quiet in here. And we can control light with a light switch. If we are just middle of the day, we have a light like you're seeing right now, which is just this kind of standard lighting. It's getting close to the end of the evening. You want to dim the light a little bit, kind of for the end of the evening. Or if you're going to be up late and you need to keep awake, we have a really bright light setting. The other thing we have is off. You see how dark it got. Another challenge sleeping on the International Space Station, sleeping in microgravity is really nice because you can just float and stretch out and it's really comfortable. The problem is with the air currents in the International Space Station, you could very well float into a piece of hardware and hit your head, or worse yet, even break something. So we got our sleeping bag here, just almost like a sleeping bag on Earth. But as you can see, we have bungee cords that help hold us up against the wall, so I almost sleep standing up. And also, I do have a pillow. It's just a bag full of clothes, but I actually keep it up on the top of my head because I'm a little tall. In the crew quarters, I tend to hit my head on the ceiling when I'm sleeping. So I got my sleeping bag here. I got my bungee cords to hold me in. And then when it's time to go to bed, it's quite easy. Just unzip the sleeping bag, climb on under the bungee cord, climb into the sleeping bag, make sure you're nice and secure, zip yourself up, plan on getting a good night's sleep so I have good reaction times, my cognitive ability is what it should be, and that I'm not grumpy in the morning. So with that, I'm all set. Good night from the ISS.
The exterior of the International Space Station is also a great place for science. Over on the Kibo Laboratories exposed facility, there is a package pointing a laser light down at tree canopies here on Earth. Scientists are using this to study Earth's ecosystem in an effort to learn more about how it is changing.
Shining laser light on Earth's forests. Presented by Science at NASA. The International Space Station, or ISS, is sporting a new light fixture. The Global Ecosystem Dynamics Investigation, or GEDI, will beam down laser light on Earth from the orbiting laboratory to reveal more about our environment and how it is changing. NASA's GEDI sends laser pulses into tree canopies and precisely measures the light reflected back. The timing and intensity of light that bounces back to GEDI's telescope will reveal the height and density of trees and vegetation, and the vertical arrangement of the leaves and branches within the overall canopy. Dr. Ralph Dabaya, GEDI Principal Investigator at the University of Maryland, says, "This instrument will map forests in high resolution and 3 dimensions, revolutionizing the way researchers monitor them. Forested areas are an important part of our planet. Not only do forests provide a habitat for many species, and a source of raw materials for human use, such as paper and lumber, they also play a key role in the Earth's carbon cycle. Deforestation and forest degradation, in addition to other types of forest disturbances, such as fires and insect outbreaks, lead to increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide. Forest regrowth sucks that carbon back down into trees and soils. Knowing how forests grow and change over time can allow us to better understand the contribution that forests make to Earth's carbon cycle and help people better manage this important resource. GEDI is the first spaceborne instrument designed specifically to perform sustained mapping of the spatial distribution of the carbon content of forests. Dabaya notes, one of the most poorly quantified components of the carbon cycle is the net balance between forest disturbance and regrowth. GEDI will help scientists fill in this missing piece by revealing the vertical structure of the forest, information we really can't get with sufficient accuracy any other way. GEDI will provide scientists with insights into the amount of carbon stored in forests. When combined with current and historical records of changes captured by Earth-orbiting satellites, such as Landsat, this information will enhance the ability of researchers to identify changes happening across our planet. Researchers also will incorporate GEDI's observations, along with those of the EcoStress instrument on the station, with data from other current and future Earth-observing sensors. These data will address important questions about relationships between force structure, function, composition, and changes in carbon content. Combining all of these data will allow researchers to gain an unprecedented understanding of ecosystem dynamics and the role plants and trees play in Earth's global carbon cycle. These new insights could be used in turn to improve models for forecasting future ecosystem changes, atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations, and climate. JEDI was launched to the station aboard SpaceX CRS-16 on December 5, 2018. For more about how NASA uses the power of light to understand our world and beyond, visit science.nasa.gov.
The scientists who develop the experiments being done on the International Space Station spend years getting them ready to fly, and then they have to work with the crew members in order to execute all the science protocols. Well, in this episode of the new series NASA Explorers, we're along for the ride with one team of scientists as their experiment reaches the station and the astronauts get to work.
Choose your lettuce leaf. Cheers. Cheers. We get balsamic? Oh, that's pretty good.
Wow.
It's a salad. It's a salad. JC, that was delicious.
Just be all Serena, that sounds great.
Well, when you haven't had a salad in 6 months, it's delicious. Still station on 2 for Nanorax.
With you on 2 for Nanorax.
Right, how's your view? Do you want anything different?
He looks great.
No, the view looks great, thank you.
Now that the experiment is aboard the space station, it's time for the astronauts to get to work. Elaine and Paris Stu are back in Virginia, and the Nanorax team is back in Texas, where they will perform a ground control version of the experiment being conducted by the crew in space.
The crew members are using the Nanorax plate reader to read the plates. They're analyzing what's in the plate and the migration of fluids between the 2 chambers that are on the plates. And so we have our ground samples here. These are identical to the ones that are on the space station. And what we're going to do is, as the crew members insert the plates into the plate reader on the space station, we're also going to insert the plates onto the ground unit we have behind me. And that's just to confirm that what we're seeing, any effects that we do end up seeing, is effective the space environment compared to the ground unit. In summary, what the plate reader does is, it's called, the big fancy word is a spectrophotometer. And it's got a big lamp in it that shines white light, and then it's got a prism or a grating. And the white light shines on the grating, and then it moves to orientate to kind of separate the light into a wavelength. And you get to select which wavelength you want to shine through your samples. We have 6 plates. Each plate takes about 4 minutes, so it's about 30 minutes each. And every time in between, we'll be listening for the crew member to say that they inserted the plate. Then we'll hit the command here. Once the run is done, the crew member will come over and take the plate out, put the new plate in, and it'll repeat for 5 more times.
Still station on 3, plate 1003 is in the tray.
Yeah, it's reading the plate. It's got a little, the plate sits in there, moves the plate this way, and then the read head moves this way. And a little here, that's kind of the lamp that's in there that turns the lamp on. Sounds like bad techno music.
My crewmate actually was the first one to start this experiment, and I took over for him and said, hey, what experiment is this? What are we doing? And he looks at me and he says, I'm not sure. So we called down to the ground to mission control.
And I know that part of this is we're looking at a gel that can release antibiotics, kind of slow release to a wound site. But I don't know what happened to that plate in the Nanorax reader this morning, and then kind of what's going on this afternoon.
What we're looking for is how the drug migrates through the gel over time, which is why we're scanning the plates 2 times a day for this 2-week run.
I like that answer. That's very cool. Thank you for finding that out.
No problem.
So this is 15 days. It's twice a day, and they're typically in the middle of the night, which is the morning for the crew on space station, and then usually sometime in the late morning, early afternoon here. But Kyle's been running the show. He's been getting up every 6 hours, 8 hours, 7 hours to do this. It's kind of fun in a way. I get to play astronaut on the ground, so that's always fun.
After 15 days of running the experiment, the researchers have a lot of valuable data about how hydrogels behave in microgravity. To learn even more, the samples will come back to Earth for further analysis. For the last leg of their journey, the samples will return to Earth in the same Dragon capsule that gave them a ride to microgravity. After Dragon splashes down in the Pacific Ocean, it's taken to the port of Long Beach, where NASA will be ready to retrieve the precious cargo.
Splashdown for Dragon was on Sunday, I believe. And so NASA has a group called Cold Stowage and Cargo Manifest, and they go out and pick up the payloads from Dragon. And then they distribute it to people at LA or whoever needs them there, and then they bring them also here to Johnson Space Center. And so now I'm out front at the Cold Stow office, and I just picked up Module 74, which is our Tympanogen project. And they hand it to me, and I put it in my cooler, and then I drive it over to our office, where it's going to sit until we fly up to the Tympanogen office in Richmond, Virginia, to do the final phase of the experiment, which is removing the samples out of the reactor microplates. We're really proud to take part in this really interesting experiment.
When we first got our gels back, it was already exciting because space never loses its cool, and so we had these places where, oh my god, these are what the astronauts touched. And so we opened up and they've been to space and back, and now they're in our lab.
As you can imagine, performing research on the ground can be very different than performing it in space. And many space station crew members come away saying they feel like they've undergone a profound change. Former astronaut Jack Fisher is one of them. Here he recalls his time in orbit and discusses how the spirit of exploration contributes to humanity's future.
The bug for space really bit me when I came down to visit my grandpa down here in Houston. So I saw the big old Saturn V rocket sitting on its belly out there and just thought, man, if humanity can do something this amazing, this awesome, I want to be a part of it. And I just fell more in love with the idea of space and being a part of something bigger than myself. The thought of actually getting to space, I couldn't wrap my head around that. You walk up to this rocket that's covered in frost from the cold fuel inside, and it's creaking and groaning and kind of alive, and you're like, well, that's pretty cool, but they're probably gonna cancel. It's just not gonna happen. You know, I've done so many sims, and it just can't be real. There's no way I'm gonna go to space. But then when no kidding, it lights off and you feel the rumble, and then you start to move, and that kind of just constant smooth acceleration, pulling you back in the seat. Everything comes to life on the panels. You see all of the things that you've seen 100 times in sims. In one instant, all of that I felt was unimaginable became real. And it was a magical thing I'll just never forget. You know, we're scientists and engineers and pilots and doctors. We're not poets, but we sure try to be, because you want to share as best you can the experience that you've seen and felt. I think I told my wife once I got on board that I thought it was
It's a burrito of awesomeness smothered in awesome sauce, baby. It's so beautiful.
It was just the beauty of being there yourself with your own eyes and seeing it. One thing that I would love to do while on orbit was, there was a window in one of the Russian modules that looked kind of out the back of the station. And I'd go sit there I'd turn off everything and you could get it really dark in there, let my eyes adjust and just look out at the stars. And the stars, you know, the longer you sit, the more you see, and it becomes unbelievable. The number, the just billions of stars, the Magellanic Clouds, the galaxies that you can see with your naked eye. And they don't twinkle. They just stare at you. They dare you to come and to explore. It lights a fire inside your soul that is unlike anything I ever experienced before or since. And it's why you see astronauts, you know, they say 560, 580, I don't know how many people have gone to space. They're all the same. They all have that bug. And they all want to do everything in their power after experiencing that to make sure that humanity reaches its potential, that we get there, that we don't just see the stars, that we explore them, that we live there, that we grow into what we can be. And you're reminded of the incredible potential that we have as humans when we put everything else aside and just work together. And you feel a part of that, looking out the cupola and just being a part of thousands of people from across this globe that have put together this just palace in the sky for us to discover and learn and grow. It showed me the potential of what humanity can be when you work together as one team. It inspired me to do everything I can in my power for the rest of my life to enable humanity to evolve, to get there, to those stars that were staring straight in my face and daring us to come get them. That is something that you can never quench. It's been a couple years since I flew, and that fire still burns just as strong today as it will when I die.
If you want another look at any of the stories we featured today, you can always find that and more by heading to YouTube and Facebook, using those addresses right there in that blue box on your NASA TV screen. And while you're there, feel free to check out all the other cool stuff available about NASA and America's human spaceflight program. When you're interested in good conversation about human spaceflight and exploration, the place to go is Houston We Have a Podcast. It's our weekly show where we talk to folks about their work in all aspects of space exploration. New episodes go up every Friday, and today, host Gary Jordan talks with Dr. Tom Williams about a NASA program that helps astronauts in space deal with the feelings of isolation, and how it can be put to use to help the rest of us here to cope with the isolation we may be feeling during the COVID-19 pandemic. Go to nasa.gov/podcast for this week's episode. That's also where you can find all of our previous episodes, as well as the full library of NASA podcasts. You can also listen to any episode on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Thank you.